Hello everyone, welcome to this first episode of Books Up Close. I'm really excited to be sharing these videos with you. I hope you're keeping well, staying safe, keeping healthy and washing your hands. So the first book that I'm going to be talking about is Call Me By Your Name by André Aciman, which came out in 2007. So I know I'm behind the curve, I've only just read this book. But I saw the film when it came out in 2017 by Luca Guadagnino, written by James Ivory. Loved the film. Even with a couple of issues that I had with it, I still think it's a really beautifully made film. And I put off reading the book because I always feel strange with book film adaptations. I want to kind of keep the two texts separate and want to kind of see them differently. But finally, as lockdown happened, I thought I can get around to reading this, and let me tell you, I think it is fantastic. The language is beautiful, the construction of the book is really interesting, the way it moves. I think the characterization is fantastic. I have some issues that I'll come to in a little bit, but for those of you that don't know anything about the story, who haven't read the book or haven't seen the film, the novel is set in the summer in the kind of early 1980s on the Italian Riviera. And Oliver, an American graduate student, comes to stay at this beautiful Italian house with a family called the Perlmans. So Oliver comes to stay with the family to help the father out with some kind of academic stuff, while also Oliver gets to write some of his thesis. The book is told by Elio, who is the 17-year-old son of the academic father, and it's basically his perspective we see for the entire novel. And he describes day by day his feelings for Oliver as they change from kind of indifference and strangeness to lust and love and a whole range of other things in between. The book is really it's powered by longing, it's powered by desire. And this desire switches and changes almost within one sentence. Elio can go from loving to hating to feeling indifferent about Oliver within kind of one sentence, within one paragraph, which I think is a really interesting thing to see and feel as you move through the paragraphs. There's various ways in which I think we can read this book, various kind of entry points. And the first one would be the very opening. This is something I always say to my students at university is, if you want to get hold of a novel, if you want to figure out what it's about, how it works, start with the first page. The first page will tell you everything you need to know. So the very first line of the book is later, the word, the voice, the attitude. And Elio is basically here parroting Oliver, who says later to everything, which basically means goodbye, see you later, I'll talk to you another time. And at first, to Elio, this is this very kind of like flippant, American, dismissive move, pushing everything aside. But actually, I think it's a really useful way to read the novel, because the whole novel is kind of later, right? The whole novel is pushing off the inevitable, whether the inevitable is, are Elio and Oliver going to get together, or then further on, what's going to happen in the future, right? So later is always this kind of pushing aside, holding something off, suspending it in time. I would argue that the whole book is a kind of exercise in being suspended in time, because you really feel the minute by minute, hour by hour movements of Elio across this summer. So I really think that's a useful way to start reading the book. This is as much about time, as much about capturing this kind of little moment of a summer, than it is about something much grander than that. Now, I will say that the book does not end like the film does. So where the film ends with that beautiful scene with Elio looking into the fireplace with Sufjan Stevens playing in the background, the book actually goes much further than that and gives us more plot after that summer ends. Now, I haven't yet read the sequel to this novel, which is called Find Me. I've been staying away from reviews because I don't really want to know what the plot is, but if anyone has read it, have thoughts about it, please leave some comments below. That'll be really useful to engage with. But I'm wondering whether it fills in any of the gaps. But basically the novel, by the end, we see Elio and Oliver as they grow older, and a few meetings between them and how their kind of dynamic changes, which I think is really interesting. It adds something that the film doesn't have. Obviously, a couple of caveats though. This book is obviously a very particular book, right? It's a very particular milieu. This is obviously a very privileged family. These are privileged characters. It's also a very white book. And where there are moments of kind of engaging with class or race, they're done in a very kind of odd way that I find problematic. There's a very odd scene later on in the book where we see a poet in Rome. So when Elliot and Oliver go to Rome together, they hear this poet speak, and he talks about when he visited Thailand once upon a time. And there's a really, really odd scene where he describes someone that he comes into contact with, who he desires. And I really think it borders on racist, transphobic, homophobic. I don't even know. There's so many weird things wrapped up in one that if you have any thoughts about this or have seen any good essays, please direct me to them, because I don't really know what to do with it. And it stands out and it comes out of nowhere. So that's kind of odd to me why that emerges where it does. Where I think the book is good is on sexuality. So a lot of people called Call Me By Your Name this kind of gay love story, but it's really not a gay love story. This is, if anything, a bisexual or pansexual love story, right? Because you've got two people who are in different kinds of romantic relationships with different kind of people of different genders. So I actually think it's quite good on the flexible and fluid nature of sexuality, not a kind of fixed one. There are kind of moves towards thinking about love and desire as being something universal, which almost strips the book and its kind of implications of anything more detailed. So we don't really get the kind of historical context or social context of what it might mean to be gay in the 1980s, especially the 1980s in Italy or America. There are hints of discussions around HIV/AIDS and illness and things like that, but again, they're very much on the edges of the novel. The book is incredibly sexual, it's quite explicit. There are some really, really key scenes. Obviously, the one with the peach, which in the film kind of ends in one place, but in the book it goes further. So Oliver ends up eating said peach. You know what I'm talking about. There's also a really interesting scene that's very tender and really beautiful, but is about kind of digestion. So there's a whole range of things going on to do with the body that I think are really, really good. I think Aciman is great on that. So overall, I think this book is very readable. I devoured it in maybe 2 days, which is quite difficult for me right now. I'm not reading books that quickly. Lockdown is causing me to flip between one thing and another. But it's very readable, it's really immersive, it's atmospheric, the characters you really care for, and you're kind of thrown this way and that with all of the feelings throughout. Overall, I'm giving this 4 out of 5 peaches. I mean, 4 out of 5 stars. Let me know what you think, if you agree, if you disagree, if you want to debate, if you want to critique my review, please do so in the bottom. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things, you know what to do. But please share this video if this was interesting to you, and keep a lookout. There will be more reviews and more videos coming soon. Take care of yourselves and each other.